From around the Beltway to around the world, this is the Daily Drum on 96.3 WHUR. Plus, now every Wednesday on WHUT TV, bringing you the information you need that matters most. Better together. Here's Harold Fisher.
Good evening. This is the Daily Drum for Wednesday, October 1st. Here's what's happening. 9 students from Parkview High in Loudoun County have overdosed on fentanyl in the past 3 weeks. The latest happening today off campus. Parents getting notification just yesterday from the school district about the first 8 overdoses. Loudoun County School Board member Tiffany Polifko doesn't know why parents weren't told sooner.
Let parents know exactly what happened so that they can have these very real and necessary conversations with their children.
The sheriff's office is looking into where the pills came from and which students are dealing with them. The 12-year-old Southeast D.C. boy arrested in an attempted carjacking was in court today. He will be held in juvenile detention until next week's court appearance. During testimony, detectives said the boy's mother turned him in after she saw him on surveillance video running from the scene. Police say he and 13-year-old Bernard Tony tried to carjack a federal security officer's car near Capital One Arena Saturday night. The officer shot and killed Tony. It may not prevent your car from being stolen, but a new digital tracking tag pilot program in D.C. will help find your car if it is stolen. The tags will be given to people living in areas of high vehicle theft. 3 events will be held to distribute and install the tags. There may soon be a new cure for sickle cell disease. On Tuesday, FDA advisors will review a gene therapy for the blood disorder, which mostly affects black people in the U.S. If approved by the FDA, it would be the first gene therapy on the U.S. market based on CRISPR, the gene editing tool that won its inventors the Nobel Prize in 2020. And nearly 500 D.C. middle school students are getting $11,000 in college scholarship money. The 6-year program from the Department of Education is over the scholarships for the first 2 years of college. Students from Ward 7 and 8 will also receive coaching in social and emotional learning. Here's a look at the weather. It's going to be freezing tonight with clear skies. Lows in the mid-20s to lower 30s. Tomorrow, much like today, with clear skies and highs around 50. Coming up, fentanyl overdoses in the Virginia suburbs. Juvenile crime seemingly out of control across the DMV. We're at the Reporters Roundtable. Lines are open. Give us a call at 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. Insight is next on WHUR and WHUT TV.
On the go and on demand, WHUR and WHUT are with you. Download the WHUR app today to get full access to shows, playlists, and our latest contests. To access WHUT on demand, download the PBS app and make Howard University Television your station. Catch up on our WHUT original productions anytime, anyplace on YouTube at WHUT TV. WHUR and WHUT, better together.
D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, you might have noticed something a little different on Monday nights at 8 p.m. I'm Angie Ange, our Director of Content here at WHUT. And Monday nights at 8 p.m., we like to call it Must See DMV. All your favorite shows from all your favorite creators focus solely on what makes D.C., Maryland, and Virginia so special. So set your clock, and we'll catch you at 8 p.m. right here on WHUT, Howard University Television, telling your stories on your station.
Going beyond the headlines to the deeper issues. 96.3 WHUR and HUR Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141. This is the Inside segment, where your questions and comments matter. At 202-319-7810. Join the conversation.
Welcome back to the Daily Drum on WHUR, WHUT TV, Sirius XM Channel 141, 96.3 HD2, and 98.3 FM. This is the Insight segment. I'm Harold Fisher. We are at the Reporters Roundtable with some of the top stories of the week. My guests are Micha Green, managing editor with the Washington Informer, and Sonya Ross, editor-in-chief for Black Women Unmuted. The stories on deck tonight: overdoses at a Loudoun County, Virginia high school, carjackings in the DMV, dangerous driving in D.C., a new law in Prince George's County mandating surveillance cameras for apartments and senior housing, and of course, a new sexual harassment policy in D.C. signed by the mayor. We may even have an opportunity to talk about the Donald Trump civil trial. Lines are open. Give us a call at 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. You can X me at HFisher, WHUR, or you can find me on Instagram at Harold T. Fisher. Ladies, thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Let me first talk about what's happening in Loudoun County. This is shocking. Parkview High School in Loudoun County, a 9th fentanyl overdose today. There have been 8 in 3 weeks. The parents just found out yesterday about the 8. And this is from Loudoun County Sheriff Mike Chapman when he was asked about this situation of notification.
You had 18 countywide, and you had 8 that are associated with one school in just a few weeks. That's a problem. I mean, we have the problem countywide, but it's important that if you have an acute problem in a particular area, that people know about it.
Sonya, this is happening right now at one high school. This is an epidemic of fentanyl overdose at just one high school. What's going on here?
That's the symptom of the larger disease, because actually this is going on every high school in every state in this nation. And compounding that problem is how little fentanyl it takes to be damaging and deadly. Some people might want to view this as an opportunity to try to get it right. Now that we know that many kids could be taken down in a quick fell swoop.
But this sounds like an opportunity for them to have gotten it wrong. This is a failure. If there is something that has happened at this school, one fentanyl overdose should have meant that the officials at the school or the school district needed to fire off an email to parents saying there was an incident at our school. But there were 8 incidents over 3 weeks, Micha?
This is a public health crisis at this school. Let's be very, very clear. And as someone who used to work in the education system, you're completely right. That first incident, there should have been a notice that went out, much less 8. I mean, it is unconscionable to think that parents and that this community were not only failed, but really and truly done a disservice for the 8 other families who've been affected at this point, and the others that could come. There should be counselors there. There should be health professionals there. There should be volunteers, and of course parents wrapping their arms around this community, on top of county officials really taking this as a countywide, community-wide, and statewide issue. And as DC editor or managing editor at the Washington Informer and looking at DC issues, I really want to point out that it's happening here in the district as well, not with numbers like we're talking about this in one isolated school, or at least not that we know about, and let's hope that's the case. But we're talking about over 400 deaths in 2020 for opioids here in the district, and those numbers continue to rise. Mayor Bowser just started an opioid commission to address those issues, but that commission is still begging the executive office to realize that this is a public health emergency. That's how the federal government is looking at opioid, and that's how the district, and certainly that's how Loudoun County and this school should be looking at it.
But there is a risk. There is a risk of over-focusing on one aspect of the overall problem, because parental notification is necessary. Yes, it's a failure. If we fixate so much on parental notification, are we going to do anything really about getting fentanyl, the proliferation of fentanyl under control, the proliferation of fentanyl among these young people under control. So it can't be the type of solution that speaks only to making sure parents are notified or families are notified. That's like analyzing the leaves on a tree to determine if it's a tree when you can already see it's a tree. So there has to be other action layered in alongside parental notification, following policies and procedures. What else can be done? Because as I said, it doesn't take much fentanyl to be this damaging.
Well, I agree with you, but I think this is a two-pronged thing. First of all, as a parent, if I were a parent from this high school, I would be marching on the high school or the school board with pitchforks and torches.
Absolutely.
And so I think that after it happened the first time, okay, if you didn't tell anyone. But when it started happening the second, that's a cover-up. That is a problem.
And I don't think it's even okay after the first time.
I mean,
people really needed to be aware of it. I mean, it of course, you're absolutely right that it goes beyond letting parents know, but this needs to be dinner time conversation every single day. I mean, I don't think that students really know the risk they're taking with this drug. I have heard many unfortunate instances about fentanyl being snuck in other sorts of drugs that no one would have even ever expected to have had an overdose or even been exposed to fentanyl in the first place. So there needs to be, I mean, back to those real don't do drug conversations. Don't do it if somebody introduces it to you. Don't bring it into the school. Tell somebody. I mean, those real conversations need to happen again. And I don't think they're happening because parents didn't even know they needed to do so.
Well, also, you got to consider the fact of whether or not, did any of these kids overdose together? Were these 9 individual overdoses?
Yes.
Yeah, they were 9 individual.
Like. Yeah.
Today happened off campus. That was the 9th one, but these were individual ones. But the other issue that the other point that I was going to make, piggybacking on what Micha was saying, was the sheriff said yesterday that some of the overdoses were pills disguised as regular Percocet. Okay, can we... Full stop. Percocet.
It's not okay.
It's not okay.
Exactly.
It's not. Thank you.
Okay.
It is not okay. And so this isn't. That's the first thing. And then I think one of the bigger issues is that, and we saw this happening before the pandemic, federal government money, all of this money to deal with the opioid crisis, and then boo, COVID. So I don't know whether that had anything to do with that, but certainly that money is still there. What's happening with the opioid crisis money, not just in Virginia, but in Maryland and across the country? I think that's something that needs to be asked about. 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. We are at the Reporters Roundtable talking about some of the top stories of the week. If you have a comment or a question, give us a call. We will be more than happy to address it. And you can talk about any of the issues, even if we move past them, because I'm sure you have some questions and concerns about it. I want to go to this next issue. And this is probably one of the most troubling things that DC has had to deal with probably since the crack issue back in the 90s, and that is this juvenile carjacking situation. Micha, it is frightening. It is disturbing what is happening to our children, and the 12-year-old boy who is the alleged accomplice of Bernard Toney from the shooting Saturday night at Capital One Arena. That is just a heartbreaking story.
It is truly tragic and heartbreaking, as you said. I hate to hear everything that's involved in this case. A 13-year-old's life was lost. That same 13-year-old had been involved in crime and specifically carjackings in the past. And, you know, maybe some people will have mixed opinions about this, but I say kudos to the 12-year-old's mom who said, that was my baby, who was the accomplice, because he needs to learn his lesson. And unfortunately, he learned it in losing a dear friend, obviously. But there needs to be some true consequences for these young people's actions. What we're seeing is repeated offenders. And so while I am by no means saying that Bernard Tony should have lost his life this past weekend. It is, as you said, heartbreaking and a true tragedy. We need to make sure that other people like Bernard, who may have started off on the wrong track, can get on the right track so that they can live their lives fully and wholly, and maybe even be a positive example to the next generation.
Well, it's all interrelated to me. I think not only about this lost 13-year-old and his 12-year-old friend who's now in deep trouble. I think about the 14-year-old who drove that car with his friends into a tree by accident.
In Prince George's County.
George's County. I think about the 3 who few days later did similar thing but managed to survive. I think about the 2 young women in Northeast DC, and one of whom lost her life in a crashed, stolen vehicle. I think 2 of them collided with each other, right?
Yeah.
2 stolen vehicles.
Yeah, that was the one in Brentwood.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you had a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old. They were half sisters. And the ironic thing is that the 16-year-old who survived in the Jeep, there were others in the car.
Right.
They took off. She stayed behind.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
No.
And I'm wondering, when can it stop, or how can it stop? It almost seems as if there's this desire to have live action Grand Theft Auto on the streets, and are they aware of the finality of death, of the frailty of life, or is it a fuzzy concept to them because video games have a reset button? Are they able to process reality to that extent? Because I don't know about y'all, but when I was growing up, I wasn't thinking about being in a car, much less driving it, at 12 or 13. I wouldn't have had any way of accessing the keys to the cars at our house. But, you know, these kids are like, I'll just demand the keys from someone and just take their car. And how did it get to that point? Because there needs to be some backtracking to understand the lived experiences of these young people, to see how it got to that point. Or maybe it won't point to anything that led to that point. But I'm weeping for our young people now. You know, it's hard out here for them. I think COVID had a really big effect on their emotional stability. And we, as a nation, haven't truly grasped the impact of the COVID pandemic yet, much less understand if that's related to this.
Yeah, I agree. I've always struggled with the conversation about COVID being this contributing factor to this, because we've had difficult criminal situations with young people pre-COVID. But the other thing, in the Bernard Tony situation, he had been arrested back in May,
Right.
for 9 crimes in one day.
Right.
The 12-year-old, according to the reporting, has had no interaction with the criminal justice system at all.
Yeah.
Although it was also reported today that he had anger issues since he was 5 years old, and that his mother was trying to get him into programs. I think a deeper dive needs to be taken to talk about what has happened with this child between 5 years old and 12 years old. And obviously, as you said, Micha, the mother is trying to stand up and do something, and kudos to her in the big discussion about right and wrong. But I would argue that at least in Bernard Tony's case, that child was lost long before he turned 12.
Yeah, Bernard Tony is not the only young man who has been lost to similar situations. Karan Blake, we saw a very similar situation, which was in the Brookland area earlier this year, where he was robbing a car and someone took it upon himself to shoot him to stop him. And again, he was a middle schooler whose life was taken. But as you said, this happened far before the age of 12 or 13. But what I'm seeing is that it's recruiting happening. I mean, we don't know the young man, the 12-year-old's name, but we know that he was not involved in things other than these anger management challenges, but he was rolling with Bernard, who had multiple charges. I want to know who Bernard was rolling with before that introduced him to this. I just had a friend tell me last week that she was in a very scary situation where she was parked in a lot, just kind of getting herself together, and a car drives up, all these people hop out, another car drives up, and then a few of the people hop out and get into the other car and speed off. And most of those people were young people, she said. Now, of course, she didn't want to get into the middle of it.
Of course not.
Or really look too hard. But it seemed like there was some sort of ring. And definitely, she said that they looked too young to be driving the vehicle, but that it seemed like they were in a hurry to meet someone who might not be. Now, of course, this is all speculation, but if this is a situation that she saw and watched, I'm wondering how many other elders in the community, some who may even have a little bit of a stronger authoritative voice, who sees stuff like that going on and says, "Hey, Johnny, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
Now, didn't I see your grandmother the other day? Get involved in a safe manner, really engage them, and try to stop them from what's going on.
I have some thoughts about that as well. We've talked about this on the program before. But first, 202-319-7810. 202-319-7810. We are at the Reporters Roundtable talking about some of the top stories of the week. If you have a comment or a question, give us a call. Lines are open indeed all the way up until 8 o'clock. So here's my struggle with that now. Yes, there was a time when an older person could have said that to me when I was a teenager, okay? The problem that I have now, and I've used this example all the time, if grandma comes out of her house and she sees 3, young boys, and I hesitate to call these people young men or young women. These are children.
Yeah.
These are children. And they're leaning on the car, and she says, young fella, can you please not lean on my car? And then they turn around and call her everything but a child of God. How is she supposed to react?
Yeah.
Not to mention, you don't know how many of them have a gun. They made themselves ghost guns, all of these things that are out in the street now. Anybody who has a Ring doorbell or any video doorbell and is connected to these apps and networks, I've seen them on my Ring app, repeated references to cars full of young people being dropped off in neighborhoods, and they fan out and pull the car doors to see if they can steal anything out of the car, and eventually maybe steal the car. Yeah. But they're being brought in groups to accomplish this stuff. Who's doing that?
Sonya,
how are we dealing with that?
Hold your point, because I've got to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to go to the phone lines. Crystal calling from D.C. Aishi also, we're going to be talking to you as well. Stay with us. The Daily Drum will continue on Sirius XM Channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. John Mons is next with the original Quiet Storm. That's on WHUR. This conversation on WHUT and WHUR-FM will be back in about a minute.
On the go and on demand, WHUR and WHUT are with you. Download the WHUR app today to get full access to shows, playlists, and our latest contests. To access WHUT on demand, download the PBS app and make Howard University Television your station. Catch up on our WHUT original productions anytime, anyplace on YouTube at WHUT TV. WHUR and WHUT, better together.
DC, Maryland, and Virginia, you might have noticed something a little different on Monday nights at 8 p.m. I'm Angie Ange, our Director of Content here at WHUT. And Monday nights at 8 p.m., we like to call it Must See DMV. All your favorite shows from all your favorite creators, focused solely on what makes DC, Maryland, and Virginia so special. So set your clock, and we'll catch you at 8 p.m. right here on WHUT, Howard University Television, telling your stories on your station.
Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM Channel 141 and WHUT TV. I'm Harold Fisher. We are at the Reporters Roundtable talking about some of the top stories of the week. My guests are Micha Green, managing editor with the Washington Informer, and Sonya Ross, editor-in-chief for Black Women Unmuted. Lines are open at 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. Certainly you are welcome to X me at HFisherWHUR, or you can find me on Instagram at Harold T. Fisher. Let's talk to Aisha. I believe that's the correct pronunciation. Forgive me if I butchered your name. What's on your mind?
No, that's correct. It's Icy. I might as well be a regular feature on your show because it's my third time getting through, so I'm honored to be on the show again.
Well, thank you. You got good luck.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm huge with this topic because it's something that resonates so much with me. I grew up in D.C. when, it was really bad, the crack epidemic, and what I see is just a lack of, fathers, or if not fathers, some sort of role models. I think the youth, they're screaming out for help. They're screaming out for love. They don't feel loved. They don't have that village. Like they say, you need more than your mom and your dad, and in these cases, they don't have that. You need your aunt. Like, for example, my nephew and my son, they have so many people around them, like my brother, their dads, my cousin. They go to a sports facility where they have a lot of men in there that, set them straight and keep them on the path, and that's what we don't have. And I'm tired of saying we don't have it, because we do have it available, and we just need to step up. We need to stop talking. Black people love to talk, but we need to go into action and just help the youth and be there for them, speak to them. A lot of times we don't speak to them, we just pass them by. We have to acknowledge them, smile at them, say, do you need something? Help them.
Yeah.
That's what's lacking in our community. We don't care anymore. I think that as Black people, we've adopted how, not to be offensive, but how kind of Europeans are, where we don't tend to, we're adopting that, like, don't talk to each other, and losing that family that we had, say, with our ancestors. We need to get that back, period. And we need to start organizations. It's enough of us who are successful that can help the youth.
Yeah. Aisha, thank you so much. I appreciate your phone call. 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. Crystal calling from Maryland. Crystal, thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Hi.
Hi.
I had some input. So I experienced this firsthand. Through the pandemic, my child, he's no angel. He got in quite a bit of trouble in the district.
How old is your child? How old is he?
He's 17 now.
He's 17. Okay.
So with these carjacking. And during the pandemic, these facilities were so overrun with these children that they were not punishing them. They were telling these children pretty much that it's okay to do these things, and there are going to be no consequences. And this starts with our local justice system and the people that we're putting in. And that's why it's so important that we vote, because Mayor Muriel Bowser, she's now making all these press conferences. Oh, this is getting out of hand. Punish them, punish them, punish them. But during the pandemic, she was in a place of leadership to say, no, these children have to pay for their consequences, and that's not what happened.
Crystal, I have a question for you. I want to back this up just a little bit. You said that your son got into quite a bit of trouble. How do you believe that happened?
So I think during the pandemic, we had these children inside for so long with no activity. These children were like dying to get outside. And when they were getting outside, they weren't doing the right things with their time. And that's because so many of our activities were closed. There was no football. There was no school. There was no interaction. There was nothing to do but go outside and get in trouble. Most of the, boys and girls clubs and all of those things, they were closed down during the pandemic.
So let me ask you one more question, because I think you are actually the very first parent on this program since we began talking about this issue that we have an opportunity to speak to. After your son carjacked the car, did you have an opportunity to ask him why he did it?
I asked him why, and his response was because everybody else wanted to.
And see, that's interesting. And on this program, several weeks ago, we had I would like to call an elder statesman returning citizen call in. A gentleman who had spent some 33 years behind bars. And I asked him when he said he committed, I think, his first crime when he was 13. And he spoke about, at 13 years old, peer pressure. Or as Crystal just shared with us, everybody else is doing it. I think, and Crystal, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and being so transparent. And certainly we wish you all the best as you continue to support your son. But I would say we need to address the everybody else is doing it issue.
Right.
Because we need to stop the one from doing it so that the other parents can stop another one from doing it so that we can stop everybody else from doing this.
Well, we need to give everybody something to do. Something positive, something that allows them to feel like they are contributing to society, because that's really what they want. They want to feel important. Going back to what I was saying earlier and what Aishi had said about men or elders in the community saying hello. Of course, there's that risk of you don't know the crazy kid that you get that's going to say, shut up and try to cuss you out and maybe pull out a weapon. But it's just showing that you care, right? You said you would never talk back because there were so many elders that made a point of saying, hi, Harold, when you were just walking around and minding your business or whatever, or not minding your business and that somebody was watching. And so I think if we give people something to do, I remember the young people in my neighborhood and some of the ones who used to get in trouble, but who would love to get paid to rake leaves, right? Just because the old lady saw that they were doing nothing and so would give them $5 to do it. Or to help walk the dogs of some of the older folks in the neighborhood. Just giving them an outlet outside of the very necessary programs that we need in the district, I think would make a difference. If we see something in the community, it's up to us to sort of be the village that the young people need.
And Sonya, let me take you back. This is the first time on the program, but I know, I absolutely know that your mama or your auntie said when you did something dumb because Rachel down the street did it, she popped you in the back of your head and you said, okay, so everybody's going to jump off the cliff, so you're going to jump with them?
Well, we do need to talk about this everybody's doing it thing, because it's taken on a new dimension with social media, with this generation of young people. You've got these TikTok challenges off the grid, and you pair that with that normal, and yes, it is normal, adolescent desire to fit in, to be part of the in crowd, to do the cool stuff. And it only takes one little idiot to declare something cool. And what do we see happening with the TikTok challenges? children setting their genitalia on fire, for example. Trying to jump off
I
of
missed
high.
And I'm glad I missed that one.
Set your underwear. Okay, it was the underwear, whatever, but yeah. And
that was the risk, though.
Yes, and it's something about that whole risk thing, and
my gracious.
and you pair that with rampant social media reach, and it may very well already be past the point for parents or adults to have any sort of influence over that. So, I mean, before the internet, here in D.C., you had young people who did the thrill thing of riding through Rock Creek Park with the headlights off, for example.
Yes, I do remember
Things that they do because that's the trend or that's the cool thing. And put some positive activity out there, and there will be one kid who will go, oh, that's corny or that's not cool. So helping to define what they consider to be cool might be the avenue to get at that.
Well, I just have to say what's not cool is when they're saying rest in peace.
Yeah.
Correct.
So-and-so.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And that needs to be just as viral as these challenges. Not because we need another sad reminder of the tragedies that face this world today, but because they need to understand that if they don't choose that option of the after school pickleball or something. Pickleball is not cool. I'm sorry, y'all.
It's not.
Could find something cooler.
But, get them in the chess club. I don't know, something.
Like the go-go dance team, whatever it is. If that can't be cool, what really they need to know is not cool is when you're saying rest in peace to a friend.
Before I go back to the phone lines real quick, we need to jump to the next topic because this is connected with the pilot program for the digital car theft tags that the mayor and the police chief have rolled out to track your car in the event that it is stolen. There is a better opportunity for you to get it back. I think it's interesting, Sonya, that now this is a government-sponsored program where people have been doing this, and car companies have also been doing this. I mean, to full transparency, back when when my father was entering into his first signs of dementia, thank goodness for the General Motors and that OnStar system. His was off. He hadn't paid the monthly fee, but they could still track his car in real time. Now all you need is this little disc, and you're going to put it in your car, and they can find your car when it's stolen. So who does that help? Does it help us as far as our insurance rates? Does it help police? Because it's not going to prevent your car from being stolen.
At the minimum, it'll give you the comfort of knowing what happened to your car. But can you get it back? Maybe, maybe not. Would you want it back?
Yeah, what condition is it in?
Would you want it back? Especially if it's got bullet holes in it.
Right.
But as far as air tags go, I could use some air tags on everything. I think we need air tags on a lot of things in this life.
On our children.
Put them on the children so you will know where they are.
I mean, it's so funny because
yeah, swallow this.
I love the beauty that following people's location has brought to this world. I just saw a meme or GIF or whatever they say the other day of a parent talking about how I'm so sorry, my child, that you didn't know where I was until you forced me to share my location. I love it. I check my mom's location all the time. So it goes both ways. But this issue here, I just think is the funniest little Band-Aid. I don't know what type of setup the DC government has with Apple, but I mean, cool that some people will be able to save $30 in getting this done. Now, the one benefit is because we know, per our last conversation, is that carjacking is happening with the young people, is that a lot of times people will find their cars a day or two later crashed on the side of a building. But it's, once with a little repair and TLC, they can use their vehicle again. And and I think that's really been a trend in the district for a couple of decades of car theft, but people finding it even months or years later. And so with that benefit, without the bullet holes or a total loss, then the Apple tags might do something.
But what about the Android folks?
Well, look,
that's a whole
nother. Don't hate on the Android.
Yes, I am.
I'm Android Nation. But nothing beats a failure but a try, right?
That's true.
So it's worth exploring. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But you got to try something. If there weren't this creative solution out there, some other solution would have to be reached, but she's reaching for a solution.
Yeah.
The mayor's going for a solution.
Absolutely.
Can't argue about that.
Let me go back to the phone lines, 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. DJ calling from Maryland. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Yes, how you doing?
Doing just fine.
Carl, I'll tell you, I'm 58, just turned 58 October.
You made it. Good for you.
I made it. I feel like I'm just skating, but I have children out of D.C. and coming up in the 80s. I remember, the grandmothers used to say, "I'll go out and get a switch." And, a lot of the kids that grew up and made it and skated through, we got our butts tore up. And we went out there and got our own whipping. And all of a sudden, when the government just changed that and called it abuse, I think the parents are just feel like they lost. You can't discipline a child, go upside his head with a switch. And, you ain't talking about killing a kid, but you're talking about if you touch the stove and it's hot and you do it again, then it's not the right thing to do. But they don't have no consequences now. And they got parents are scared because the kids are going to call the cops on them. And now they all got guns. And so, our generation has really lost its values. I think what the government needs to do, or someone needs to really get in the government's, put a 3 foot in the government's yang and let them know that these kids are a different, they're a different breed. Hate to say it like that, but kids that comes from the African descent, if they don't have no structure, they are going to run wild.
Yeah.
If you put guns and let them get access to drugs and their minds are going, there's nowhere in the world that a 12-year-old kid should be able to come up to an adult with a gun and try to take his car.
Let me say, DJ, there's no reason that a 12-year-old child should be out on a Saturday night at 10 o'clock by himself. I mean, that's...
You feel me?
Yeah.
At least thinking that they can even have the audacity to even want to be out.
Right.
But it's got to be something that's deep-rooted, that the parents just feel that, and I know a lot of the good parents, they're working hard, they're trying, they're putting the roof, they're putting food on the table, but it's just not parenting.
Yeah.
Parenting
DJ, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Parenting is a major issue right now with the young people. So again, thank you so much. Iris calling from Maryland. Iris, thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Well, DJ has addressed my concern, too. I'm an old-school parent, single mom, raised my daughter and threatened her to do anything that she was not supposed to do. You're supposed to respect anybody taller than you. I stayed engaged with the teachers, the community, and parents, I think today, yes, I heard what DJ said because of the system saying you can't discipline your child, but this is my roof. Children don't have rooms in my house. You sleep here, but that is my room. I can go through your room and see if you're bringing anything in there that is inappropriate. I grew up, if even I had a piece of candy from somebody, my parents would say, "Hey, where did you get that from?"
Yes,
Parents,
absolutely.
You have to know. You must know your child. You can't blame the school system. You can't blame the policeman. You can't blame anybody else. because that's your roof, and you need to know what's going on in your roof. And my child, when we go out together. And yes, she had friends. I would know her friends.
Yes.
I'm still a friend, parent friend to her friends, and my daughter's 30 years old.
Well, there you go.
I knew her friends' parents.
Well, look, Iris, thank you again for sharing all of those good parenting tips. I didn't hear you say anything about time out, which is one of my pet peeves. But anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate it so very much. We need to move on to yet another issue regarding safety. Just this week, the Prince George's County Council, by a vote of 9-2, passed a surveillance security camera law for apartment buildings of 100 units or more, or senior designated housing. And I wanted to share this with you because before the vote, this is what some of the speakers had to say from the audience.
I don't go to the trash chute after dark. I don't go to the male alcove after dark. I don't want to get banged in my head in the parking lot trying to get from my car inside.
I think, Sonya, these are the critical voices from the community. Those two ladies were older ladies. They were well spoken. Their points were well made. Yes, County Executive Angela Olsenbrooks has said for many, many months when this issue first came up that we can't afford it. She didn't say it was a bad idea. She said it was expensive. Council went on ahead and passed it. I think it's a good idea. We need to have eyes everywhere, but balancing it with the cost, it's got to get done some kind of way.
I agree with that. I mean, security cameras are a necessity of life. Again,
you have a Ring camera.
A Ring camera. I mean, it's part of the evolution of the society that we're living in. And yes, there should be working security cameras. There also should be working security. Now, the cameras are great. If there's no one to monitor them and no one to respond to what's unfolding on that camera, does it help at all? And it's sad that as a society, we've reached a point where our seniors can't check their mail after dark. I mean, look, I don't stop at my mailbox after dark. I don't stop my car at the mailbox after dark. I don't do that.
You have one of those distant mailboxes in the community,
yes,
not on the house.
Not on the house,
Yeah.
because very few houses these days actually have the mail brought directly to their home or dropped in that mail slot in the door. Sometimes you have to go to the end of your very long driveway to get your mail, and you never know who's lurking for whatever reason. So they're absolutely right to be precautious that way. But again, if you don't have working security, the working security cameras can only do so much.
Yeah. Your thoughts about that, Misha?
So again, I'm really happy to see this initiative being taken to keep the residents safe, particularly when we hear so many stories of people in these high occupancy buildings or senior living communities where people are truly preying on the residents. And so it's really great to see that the Prince George's County Council is saying enough is enough. We need to invest in security. That said, to Sonya's point, well, if no one is there to stop these criminals in the act, even if it's being caught on camera, then what is going to stop them from committing the crime altogether? And so I think that there needs to be continued investment. This is step one, and what needs to probably be a few step process to address crime in communities in Prince George's County. We know, to your point, that so much of the crime itself is interrelated, and so those same kids who are trying to do carjackings in in DC are still going to Prince George's, are still have friends there, are still doing the same TikTok challenges, and so we need personnel, we need people, we need again the people in these communities also volunteering to keep their neighborhoods safe. And so even when, I wonder, again, are we hiring full-time security in every complex in addition to this?
So here's the issue regarding that. The legislation originally required, at least at the senior centers, a security guard.
Right.
But again, because of the cost, it being cost prohibitive, that was eliminated during committee. So we ended up with the electronic eyes on the building, and obviously, as I said, not just for senior housing, but apartments that have more than 100 units. Obviously, the advocates for property owners were gently against this issue. I mean, how much pushback can you
really
give
right,
to this security initiative? I think their issue is cost, and I'm sure down the road we're probably going to see some other issues regarding passing on the cost to the renters, and I'm sure that's going to come up. This is supposed to go into effect, the bill going into effect in December, but the owners of these properties have 6 months to come into compliance, so that's something to think about. Real quick, the executive order, 24 pages yesterday. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser cracking down on sexual harassment. You better not touch anybody in the district.
You better not look.
You better not.
Try not to breathe.
Don't blink.
Don't.
Yeah.
Misha,
Don't wink.
I'm going to the store. Do you want me to get you a cup of coffee? What?
Yeah. At this point,
No.
none of that. Don't. Just don't be nice in anybody's direction. No. There's a part of me that is really happy to see aggressive action being taken on sexual harassment. The mayor had to do this because it was her right-hand man who got in the biggest amount of trouble for this, at least most recently, on top of other allegations. I mean, we saw the numbers of the amount of complaints that the district has seen that really the Falchichio incident brought to light. And so I'm happy to see this aggressive approach. That said, she gave people until I think it's like mid-November to say
we're dating.
We're dating.
That's right. Yes, we are dating. We've been dating. Everything's fine.
Yes.
We're shacking. We got to grandfather this rascal in.
Yeah, and I just want to shout this out without putting my parents' business out there because they were married and happy. But I am a child of 2 DC government employees who fell in love, got married, and had me. And so, I think that it can totally work. It was not superior employee.
Were they in the same division?
They were close enough.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously.
We're going to stop that right here and there. Oh, my gracious.
No, I really don't know. I'll have to fact check that eventually. Mom and Dad, I'm sorry. But I think that as long as there's healthy transparency and that there's no sort of conflict of interest or, again, superior employee, it can work. It can work.
But people have to be careful. And levity aside, this executive order is in place not just to protect the government, but it really is to protect people.
It's for sure, and it's something that has not really been a priority, I think, for too long, and I hope that this isn't the district really sets an example not only for other local governments but for private organizations in general. Sexual harassment cannot be tolerated. I love the notion of the statute of limitations not mattering when it comes to this. I mean, people can bring old stuff up if they feel if they still feel uncomfortable, and I think that's really great.
Yeah.
Real quick, Sonya, civil court case, Donald Trump. He can't seem to help himself. Real quick, your thoughts about where where he and the family affair that we're going to see this week.
Well, I think it's wise to take notice of the way the enforcement of the gag orders, plural, are playing out. The former president was fined already. Twice.
Yes.
And I've heard people commenting on this saying, that's not a lot of money. That's nothing to him, and he can drop that in a dime and keep right on talking. And my point about that is they're giving him as much leeway as possible to cooperate before they hit him with a hammer. And he can't seem to help himself.
What do you think that hammer might look like?
A day or two in jail. That certainly might be in his future in the case here before Judge Chutkin, who, enforced the limited gag order, brought it back while he says he's going to appeal it. And she said, well, it will be enforced while you're appealing it. It is a limited gag order. He has some ability to say things, but what he seems to lack is an ability to control himself. Maybe he can listen to his counsel, who will tell him, dude, quit it, knock it off, or this judge has the ability to put you in jail.
I don't think that he's going to be, number one, listening to his counsel. It was hard enough for him to get counsel.
It's clear he doesn't listen to his counsel.
But I say that because the longer these things have gone on over the past 3 years or so, the more difficult he is having with finding counsel that may be barred in certain areas, and those who want to take him and take these cases, because on one side you may have an attorney who says, well, I represented Donald Trump, but on the other hand, you may have an attorney who says, oh my God, I represented Donald Trump.
Right.
And that could hurt business. So, it'll certainly be interesting to continue to watch, particularly as we see, what his children have to say. And certainly it has me looking very, very much forward to Saturday Night Live.
Oh, yeah. that term, flirting with disaster?
Yes.
That's exactly what he's got going on.
Well, that's not a flirt. That's a whole growth.
Yes.
Right there. Without a doubt.
And we know he's okay with that.
Yeah,
so.
Apparently so. Micha Green, Sonya Ross, thank you so much for joining this conversation. I really appreciate your time, ladies. I'm sure we'll be seeing you again.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, finally tonight, from fentanyl overdoses to a growing crime wave of carjackings, something is going on with our children. In some cases, it means something is also going on with their parents, if they're there at all. Well, I certainly hope these teenagers can be saved from themselves and the world they are raging against. I don't have an answer. But for the new parents with brand new babies, pay attention to what we're seeing with these teenagers right now. That way, when things start to go left with your children, you can nip it in the bud with good parenting. That's the Daily Drum for this Wednesday, November 1st. I'm Harold Fisher. Good night.
This program was produced by WHUT and made possible by contributions from viewers like you. For more information on this program or any other program, please visit our website at WHUT.org. Thank you.